Brothels closed down, the police force was laid off because crime went so low, Bible sales skyrocketed throughout the nation. This is the story of the Welsh Revival and its leader, Evan Roberts. I'm Robert Sladen, and this is God's Generals. The evangelicals and the Pentecostal movements have all valued the great story of the Welsh Revival. It is one of the most exciting revivals that I have read about and studied in all of my years of reading all the great leaders in the revival movements. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how God chose a young man named Evan Roberts. He was in his 20s when God chose him. So you don't have to be a doctor of theology or have all the experience or come from the right type of family. You have to just have the right heart, and God will use you. And many of you have the right heart, but sometimes you've heard, well, you don't have this education, it didn't come from that church. That means nothing. God responds to the heart condition of a man or of a woman. Evan Roberts was born in Wales. His family worked in the coal mines like he did as a young man himself. He was known as he'd go into the coal mines. You know, back in those days, there was no child labor laws, so children and teenagers worked like adult men worked in the mines. And so he would carry his Bible with him and go down into the mines, and during their breaks, he would read the scriptures, and during the lunchtime, he'd read his scriptures, and he'd make a little place in the wall of the mine and left his Bible in there sometimes. Well, one time there was an explosion, and the explosion burnt the pages of his Bible and became the famous Scorched Bible that he would use throughout his life and throughout the revival that was to come. So Evan Roberts, to look at his life, is very interesting. His family was Christian, and so they grew up teaching the Bible stories and going to church, but Evan Roberts took it a step further. He seemed to have a personal relationship with God that did not have to come via the pastor or via his parents. He had it one for himself. And it was so intense at times people would notice him walking down the roads to going to school or going home or going to the store, and he would just stop on the side of the road and he would just talk to himself. It looked like he was talking to the air. And folks walking by or in horse and buggy or some of the early cars, but mainly horse and buggy, they would look at this young man, talking to himself, and they thought there was something wrong with him. So his parents had him taken to a special doctor to find out if there was. And the doctor came back and said that Evan Roberts had a religious fixation about him, that he would grow out of it in time. Well, I don't think his religious fixation ever stopped. It grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't think they should have thought there was a problem because of the young man stopping and talking to God. If young men would talk to God more, they would not be talking to the wrong people. So Evan Roberts is also a young man that influenced his friends.